Hey, Stephen Yanni here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts in a winter wonderland. Like, I wonder what the hell I'm doing here today, but you know what? The show must go on. So let's talk about this 1966 Buick Riviera. Now, we know that the Riviera came back in '62 as the LaSalle 2 initially, but of course it became Buick Riviera. But Cadillac initially wanted that as their own, but it didn't work out that way. So '62-3, the Riviera came back, but this is the first year for the second generation. Now these are similar to the original versions, but it's actually quite a bit different. Whole different body, longer wheelbase, 119 inches here versus 117 for the clamshell '63, '4, and '5 Riviera that preceded this. But sales on these things were good. The first year, these went 43,348 units versus about 34,000 for the '65. So sales were strong despite the restyle, or maybe because of the restyle. Now, one thing about the Riviera in '65 onward is the hideaway headlights. We can see here that Buick did it very differently. You can see on the face of this '66, the long hood goes up, and we can see that in retracted position, the headlights are kind of ugly, but here they are. They're up like that, and the metal grille doesn't move, but rather the headlights come down to cover the grille. Now, check this out, the original T3 bulb right there. These are made by GM's, the guide division, tilt down and out 3 degrees, but these bulbs never wear out, and here they are, perhaps the originals. Now, here's a picture here of the '66 Riviera with the headlights in the down position. And you can see right there, introducing the tuned car, 1966 Buick. And inside we have all the Buick lineup. And here's the, look at this thing, Master Tester, that green engine right there. That's interesting. Testing the testers. So all this reference to the fact that Buick tuned their cars from top to bottom. And here's the big Riviera GS right here. And on the left we see Riviera lights off and on, above, below. And on the right we see the optional console, no 4 speeds, no manual transmissions. Rivieras were strictly automatics. Again, personal luxury on a grand scale. Riviera bench seat, standard. Buckets were optional. We see them to the right. And at the bottom we see here, we regret to destroy again the old theory that the great road machines always come from Europe. But this one comes from exotic, faraway Flint, Michigan, home of Buick, home of the tuned car. And it's kind of a neat little piece right here, just talking about the new Riviera and the other models as well. But this is 1966, so the final year for the Nailhead V8. Well, that's basically what we're looking at right here. We can see the rocker arms here go to valves that are vertically oriented. They go straight up and down, which is really weird. Most engines, they go on an angle. But again, the Nailhead came along in '53 and ran through '66. And a pretty decent engine, known for torque, not so much for high RPMs, but notice how the intake manifold flanges are flat right here. The manifold sits on top of that. Is a stamped tin valley cover. The lifters are inside, and of course, hydraulic cam on this. This one does have air conditioning. You can see the remnants of that unit right there. And here on the right, the single pot master cylinder in its final appearance for 1966. This one does have power steering. They all did. That was standard equipment. And as we make our way around, let's continue checking this out. Now again, the Riviera was strictly a 2-door, strictly a coupe. There were no convertibles, at least in this styling cycle. No wagons ever. With that said, beautiful design. And here we have the front wheel. These Buick wheels are kind of unique. We can see that they have sort of a lot of dish to them right there. And basically what that does is allow Buick to have a very deep hubcap, sort of like Cadillac had. Behind this will be an iron brake drum, big 12-inch drum. And then we get around to the side here, and we can see, again, the Buick 2-door hardtop styling. The windows go down, the sun comes in, and it's all good. But here at the back, something new for 1966 was this vent. We see right here. These are vents in what you might call the Dutchman panel. Pardon the ice, but again, right here, this basically is the exhaust for the flow-through ventilation. For 1965, Riviera had a traditional vent window right here, the pop-out type. Well, to '66 onward, they went with flow-through ventilation, which means with the windows up, you could open a valve, air would come in through the cowl, make its way through the car under pressure, and then be exhausted through those vents. Now, something that's kind of weird is that the Buick Riviera shared its E-body platform with the Olds Toronado. Crazy but true. Of course, the Toronado was a front-wheel drive car. We'll get into that in a minute. But inside, let's take a peek here, and we notice something kind of neat. The rear seat passengers on the Riviera had their own door handle right here, as they did on the Toronado, allowing them to get in or out at their own leisure. Of course, we also have power windows on this one here, and little touches like this plastic modesty panel right here, hiding the hinges or the wiring right there. That's kind of a neat thing. You won't see that on a Chevy or a Buick Skylark, but it's standard equipment on Riviera. Let's go inside this thing. Oh, before we do that, yeah, it's just kind of cool. Car Life magazine right here. The Riviera was such a big deal that it was the cover car for the February '66 issue of Car Life, and they compared it, Riviera versus Toronado, because they were cousins in many ways under the skin. And you can see right here, this is a Grand Sport right here, so that means it had the special suspension, the wheels, and was sort of a senior muscle car. Next page we have more goodness, Grand Sport. And again, on the right, there's a bit of a misconception. The dual quads on the 425 Grand Sport were not standard. It says here, the Riviera's only engine option is 2 4-barrel carburetors, which boost horsepower to 360, but doesn't affect the torque rating. Buick says the 2x4 setup must be dealer installed, probably because of lack of demand for it. And there are no other differences other than carburation between the two engines. No, there's no carb or camshaft differences. So basically, that's the story of that Riviera. Now next door, the Toronado, there it is right there, which has the same greenhouse, same windshield, same backlight, same flow-through ventilation, and underneath a lot of the same black metal, which is to say chassis stampings and bits like that are similar. Here on the right or left, we see the flow-through ventilation, and that Dutchman panel below the rear window is where the air exhausts from. And this one here has the bucket seats and optional console shifter. Let's look and see what we have inside this Riviera. I'll go inside and take a peek. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one, I'm not sure. Yeah, sort of, okay. Column shifter right here. So this was not a bucket seat car. So it was probably a more family-oriented machine with the bucket. Look at the speedometer right there. Kind of cool. A drum type scenario right there basically goes to 140 miles per hour working downward like that. Now getting back to the Riviera, something about this, of course, this is the AMT model kit of the Riviera from 2002. These are still readily available from round 2. And we can see these, you can see that basically a beautiful body. Underneath has the X-frame right there. Rear wheel drive, a big old hallway for the axle. Meanwhile, over at Oldsmobile, this is the Toronado, which is similar. Now, this is an old kit. It's AMT, but this is actually from 1970. But we can see on the AMT 70 Toronado kit. And I bring these models out because they're great teaching aids, crazy but true. From the side, we can see that the Toronado and the Eldorado are similar, but not the same. So basically, we can see right there where there they have it like that. So, but underneath, we can see the Toronado on the bottom has a full frame and front wheel drive. Notice the dead axle in the back here, and basically that stuff. So, yeah, let's cut it down. It's cut. Okay. Before I was so rudely interrupted, we can see here how the Toronado and the Riviera have the same basic wheelbase and shape, and in fact, the front and rear window glass was interchangeable, and that was one way that GM cut costs. But underneath, the Riviera on the top, we can see clearly has the X-frame and rear-wheel drive, while Toronado has front-wheel drive and a beam in the back. So different floor pans and different frames, but otherwise similar metals. They were both considered the E-body, along with the Eldorado from Cadillac, which arrived in '67 and was also front-wheel drive. But before we move on, I want to show something kind of cool. This is the AMT model of the 70 Olds Toronado, and again, 1970, not 66 or 7, but similar basic bones. But check it out. Johan also did a model of the Toronado. Is it different? Is it all new? No. This is kind of weird. The Johan and AMT tooling people must have shared, because these are identical kits. The blue one is the Johan. You can see it's basically the same, top and bottom. And even the chrome tree is pretty much the same. So it's interesting to see how, I won't call it industrial espionage, it was actually sharing between Johan, which was a smaller manufacturer, and AMT, both of them kind of holding hands and trading and sharing tooling. This is not the first time. In fact, certain Cadillac models, the AMX, the Javelin, those kits all were also made by Johan and AMT at the same time. Kind of weird. Getting back to this puppy here, no pun intended, we can see inside something kind of cool about Riviera was the massive glove compartment right here. Now, oh, this one's a Grand Sport. Look at that. See the GS on the bottom right there? I didn't notice that, but GS right on the bottom of Riviera on that wood paneling right down here. Let me try and point that out. There it is, Riviera GS Grand Sport. So that tells us this had the 342 limited slip differential in the back. That Grand Sport bit right there, kind of cool. And potentially dual quads, but again, that was a dealer installed thing according to the catalog, who can really say. But this glove compartment right here, this massive thing right here with this huge built-in sort of almost a dust bin, kind of cool. But again, the Riviera was a beautiful car, and again, 1966, first year for this styling cycle. So that's the story of GM's second iteration, or Buick's second iteration of the Riviera, which again was initially considered to be the LaSalle 2. Cadillac wanted to have the Riviera in their lineup, but decided against it, and Buick took it up as the Riviera in 1963, and a legend was born. But again, second-gen Riviera right here in 1966, first year for it. Big back seat area. You can see here the pass-through to the trunk, but a huge hump here for the rear axle. And again, this would have had the 342 limited slip differential as a Grand Sport. So the more you look, the more you see. Now, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Mag's YouTube channel and tell your friends about this, share it, and be sure to ring the bell so you know when the next video comes out, which is tomorrow morning.